Good evening and welcome to this additional meeting of Rother's Licensing and General Purposes Committee. My name is Councillor Meir and I am the Chairman of the committee. This meeting is being held remotely and is being live streamed via YouTube, and the recording of it will be available afterwards on our website. Councillors and officers are reminded to put their mobile phone on silent if they have one near them. Councillors, please mute your microphones when not speaking, as this will reduce feedback and background noise and saves bandwidth to prevent loss of connection. If you're a member of the committee, please leave your camera on. I will first do a roll call to check all the members who are expected to attend are present. As I say your name, please turn on your microphone and confirm that you are connected. Councillor Bird.
Present.
Councillor Byrne.
Present.
Councillor Coleman.
Present.
Councillor Curtis.
Present.
Councillor Drayson.
Present.
Councillor Earl Williams.
Present.
Councillor Field.
Present.
Councillor Kirby Green.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Madeley.
Present.
Councillor Thomas.
Present.
Councillor Timpey.
Present.
Joining us today also are Robin Venard, the Assistant Director of Resources, and Maria Benford, Human Resources Manager. We have other councillors joining us too, and they will be Councillor Bayliss, Councillor Cook, Councillor Cortell, Councillor Ganley, Councillor Gray, Councillor Langlands, Councillor Maynard, Councillor Oliver, Councillor Prochak, Councillor Stevens, and Councillor Vine Hall. Are there any other councillors present whose names I have not called?
Councillor John Barnes.
Councillor John Barnes, thank you. There are also two technical staff in the meeting to operate the live broadcast and to be on hand if there are any technical difficulties, and that is Claire and Chris. The Democratic Services Officer, that's to say our committee clerk today, is Louise Hollingsworth. Members of the committee will be making the decisions today by a named vote. Louise will call out each member in turn and they will answer for, against or abstain. Members, please remember to turn your microphone on again at this point. Those members who wish to speak, please indicate by typing your surname only in the chat facility. The chat facility is persistent in that it cannot be deleted, and any inappropriate use would be deemed as a potential code of conduct matter. Officers wishing to respond to members' questions, please type interject. I will ask members who have asked a question if they wish to come back after receiving a response, so there's no need to type your surname into the chat facility again. Members are reminded not to press leave meeting if you need to leave the room. Just remember to turn off your cameras and microphones. Please be aware that there can be a time delay of around 5 seconds while a member appears on screen. Each item will be reintroduced as we get to it. Agenda item 1, to resolve that the minutes of the last meeting be confirmed as a correct record of the proceedings, to be signed by me at a later date. Does everyone agree with the minutes of the previous meeting?
Agreed.
None against?
Agreed.
Agreed.
None against? Then I will take those as agreed. Thank you. We have apologies for absence and substitutes. Absent with apologies are Councillors Brown, Harmer and Hart. Councillor Mrs Kirby Green is present as a substitute for Councillor Brown, and Councillor Madeley is present as a substitute for Councillor Harmer. Agenda item number 3, additional agenda items. Are there any, Louise?
No, none received, Chairman.
None received. Agenda item 4, disclosure of interests. Members, please speak clearly if you have a personal and prejudicial interest in any item on the agenda, and say the agenda item to which it refers. Are there any disclosures of interest? None. If anyone has forgotten to disclose an interest, of course it should be raised again when we deal with the matter in hand. Agenda item number 5, this is the main business of the evening, the senior staff restructuring. There is a confidential appendix to this. Should the need to discuss that appendix arise, the committee will need to go into confidential session and the public and press to be excluded. The reasons will be given at the time. If that happens, the YouTube feed will be paused, but we will go back live again and public for the vote and closing comments at the end of the meeting. So if you are following the meeting, please don't go away. So the senior staff restructuring, there is a report and a proposal from Councillor Field, and I call on Councillor Field to present her report.
Thank you, Chair. I am presenting this report as a member of this committee and also a Cabinet member. I shall be brief. This report is the culmination of an open process to decide where we go next. All parties and their unions have been involved all the way along this, and I have to say the process has been very harmonious and there's been no dissent. The report you have before you represents a package which has been carefully agreed, as I said, by all parties and their unions. And this itself is part of the process which we agreed at Cabinet, and if we agree tonight, it will go to full council next. I'm not going to go through the report because you've all read it and the contents, I believe, are self-explanatory. I would just caution, though, that if we want to get into the detail of Appendix Item 7, as indeed the Chair has just indicated, we will have to go into confidential session. Paragraph 5, I would like to draw your attention to, paragraph 4 I will draw your attention to, because that explains that any further restructuring will happen as a consequence of agreeing this report. So what I would like not to be happening is people to ask questions about what happens next, because we don't know what's happening next. This report isn't dealing with what's happening next, it's just dealing with the subject on the order paper. With that then, Chair, I'll hand back to you to take it on.
Thank you, Councillor Field. I see that Councillor Ganley is indicating that he wishes to speak. Councillor Ganley. Councillor Ganley? You're muted, Councillor Ganley.
Okay, I'm on. Thank you very much, Chairman. The purpose of this recommendation, as we all know, is to get rid of Dr. Tony Leonard. In the 14 years that I have known and worked with Dr. Leonard, he has never acted other than in the interests of the people of Rother. He is completely non-political and even-handed in his dealing with council matters. I've worked with and for large corporations across the world, and have rarely come across a more professional, capable and sensible officer than Dr. Leonard. It is quite unacceptable that he is being treated in this way. Sadly, I think it is too late to attempt to retain him. In the light of the treatment meted out to him by certain members, I imagine that he would not be willing to remain at Rother District Council. His departure will be a huge loss to the people of Rother, whom he has served impeccably over the last 27 years. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Field, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, please. I don't know how clear I was at the beginning. This is actually, I object strongly to the language "get rid of." That implies a purpose which is not what is happening here. I don't know how much I should be saying as far as breaking confidences goes, but I said, and I will reiterate, that this process has been open all the way and all parties agrees, and no one is being got rid of in the underhand way in which you imply, Councillor Ganley. We are changing the structure, or hoping to change the structure, at the top of the organisation. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. Before we move on, I've been asked to confirm the substitution, one of the substitutions. Councillor Madeley is present as substitute for Councillor Harmer. A councillor was concerned about that, apparently, or concerned to know the answer.
Chairman, point of order. Is it in order for a Lib Dem to substitute for an independent?
I understand, yes.
So we don't have political balance on committees under this administration?
We are an alliance.
No, that's not how it's set up. I think you'll find that's out of order. You're elected as, you aren't collectively part of an alliance for the purpose of committee allocation. I think you'll find that particular substitution is out of order.
Chairman, I'm an independent, as is Councillor Harmer.
Apologies, I thought you were a Lib Democrat.
No. Thank you. I'm glad that we were able to clear that up. Councillor Barnes, please. Councillor John Barnes. Councillor Barnes. I'll come back to Councillor Barnes. No?
I've just difficulty unmuting, and I'm getting an echo, I'm afraid. I listened with some care to what Councillor Field had to say, but I have a rather unfortunate recent experience with freeing up a chief executive to project lead without looking at the consequences on day-to-day management. And I notice in the appendix that the Unison representative has pointed this out. What tends to happen is you do not get properly coordinated day-to-day management. And so it's unfortunate, I think, that Councillor Field is dismissing this as next steps. It seems to me you do need to look at the capacity of the team beneath the chief executive, decide whether they are sufficient in number and how you are going to coordinate them in order to get a coherent response. And this is particularly true at a time of pandemic when, frankly, we are in no sight of a vaccine, and this crisis is going to go on well into the autumn, possibly the winter months. So I am worried that we are rather rushing this step. I am not against what you're trying to do, but I think to pay no attention to the consequences for day-to-day management is a bad mistake.
Yes, I think there are some answers to some of your questions there, Councillor Barnes, in the report, but I would ask Councillor Field to explain the situation regarding that.
The situation, according to our legal advice, is that it is usually or always the first job of a new chief executive to put such measures in place. If the person we have in mind accepts the job, he is very well placed to do this because he knows the personalities extremely well. These questions have all been raised and Unison have been answered, and I understand Unison are satisfied with the responses they've received.
There's no problem with the legal position. It is actually the ongoing running of the organisation that worries me. You are better off actually with Malcolm continuing because he will at least have some idea what he's going to do. But it proved to be totally disruptive in this other organisation with which I'm concerned, to suddenly say the chief executive was not going to do the day-to-day management, but was going to provide simply a strategic lead.
Councillor Field?
I would come back by saying I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with talking personalities in open session in this way, and to say that I do have faith in the staff of this organisation.
Yes, thank you. I think we'll move on from that point. Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the motion this evening is, as we all know, a smokescreen for a hidden agenda to remove an executive officer. Since my election to Rother in 2015, what a learning curve this has been. Dr. Tony Leonard, together with Malcolm Johnson, have been a huge source of irreplaceable knowledge, without which help all councillors would flounder. Personally, I have been privileged to have been associated with Dr. Leonard over the years, and feel that this is not only a travesty of procedure, but a huge loss to Rother, from which we may never recover. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Councillor Kirby Green. Councillor Kirby Green.
Sorry, I'm here. Yeah, the two things I wanted to raise. First,
Sorry, Chair. I was in line to speak. Thank you.
I don't see you on the.
Oh, go before me. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. If we could have Councillor Kirby Green, please.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Chairman. A couple of things. Firstly, Councillor Barnes actually covered the first one, which was about my concern about the day-to-day running of Rother. My background actually is in large transformation programmes, but I accept I've never worked in the public sector. It's only been in the private sector, but it would be unusual we seem to be putting the cart before the horse, sort of suddenly deciding on a change there and then doing everything else afterwards. You'd normally decide where you want to get to and then put your structure in place to help you get there. But that's obviously not what we're doing this time. But my other point is actually about the confidential bit. So I assume, do we continue and then come back to that, or can I raise it now?
Shall we continue and come back to that? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Timpey, did I miss you? Were you wishing to speak?
Chair.
I'm sorry.
I think so, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to move that we accept the report as Councillor Field has said. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for that?
I'll second that, Chair.
I do have other councillors wishing to speak. I think I should let them speak. Councillor Maynard again. Does Councillor Maynard wish to speak again?
Sorry, Chairman, I had a minor problem with the IT there at that point. Thank you very much indeed. I just want to take issue with the fundamental point. This hasn't been an open and transparent process. And to suggest that it has is just a nonsense. The fact of the matter is that as far as we're aware from those that have attended the meeting, if the IESI have been engaged, and I don't recall at any point that ever going to Cabinet or Council to be, I don't ever remember it being agreed that IESI would be engaged. I don't recall any costings of involving them in the process. I don't recall any agreement for any funding, for any legal advice that you as the Rother Alliance may have had. To suggest that this is open and transparent and has been so is just making a mockery of the democracy that you said you had aspired to when you were elected. And what we've seen is nothing but a nonsense. The fact of the matter is we're here today looking to actually damage the very resilience of this authority. The resilience of this authority that we've already seen in danger, for example, in terms of retaining staff since the Alliance came to power. Over 30 people have left this organisation since the Alliance came to power. Staff morale is at an all-time low. And when we see the pincer movement of the senior staff that we've seen in terms of the Alliance wanting to replace the senior directors, is it any wonder at all that staff morale is as low as it is? And it is any wonder that this authority will not have the resilience as we go forward with experienced members of staff who collectively have several decades of experience that have underpinned the very fabric of this authority. That won't happen under the Alliance, and that's why the Conservative side are opposed to what you're putting forward. It's not transformation, and certainly if you're adopting the IEASY model that we've seen over the way in Eastbourne, the only way is down, isn't it, Chairman?
And thank you, Councillor Maynard. Councillor Field, do you want to come back on the question of openness and on the question of costings and the matters being dealt with properly at Cabinet?
Well, what can I say? They were. We had a budget and we agreed it. But I want to come back to this myth that we are trying to get rid of one of our executive directors, because the original paper, which started this whole process, was put to us jointly by the two executive directors, one of whom wanted to leave. He volunteered to leave and said he would like to go. And that is why we are in the position we are in now. No one is getting rid of anybody. We are acting on what has been put to us by two executive directors. It would have happened sooner had we not been mired in a pandemic, which caused us all to suspend our actions and just concentrate on the residents in the way that we have been doing. Now we're getting back to normal and we are proceeding with our plans. But as I say, no one is being got rid of.
Thank you. Councillor Bird. Councillor Bird.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Firstly, I would like members to read all the comments from the staff side and to realise the effects that will happen on the morale of our officers. I've never seen a paper from Unison so damning in all my life, although we are told that this is all a happy family. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I would say the majority of the staff are against it. And secondly, how much has been paid so far to this EASY? How much is it expected to cost in total? And where actually is the money coming from? Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Councillor Field, where is the money coming from? I think that is explained in the report, but Councillor Field, you may wish to explain that.
It's been budgeted for. If you want more technical advice, perhaps we could ask Mr. Bernard.
Yes.
Chairman, just to confirm for members, I recall from the March 2020 Cabinet report, sum of £35,000 was agreed for the IEASY support through their transformation programme for the council. So the funding was earmarked at that point, and it was earmarked to come from the medium-term financial plan reserve in order to fund that work. I must admit, I'm not aware at the moment of any payments being made to IEASY currently, but obviously at some point they'll be billing us for their time and effort in terms of supporting the councillors in this process. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Thank you. Councillor Timpey, did you wish to speak again, or was this where I missed you before?
No, thank you, Chair. I've already moved.
Thank you. Now I have no further councillors indicating that they wish to speak. Would Councillor Field wish to sum up at the end? We seem to be coming to the end of the discussion.
Thank you. I think I've answered the points as they arose throughout the debate, and thank you for allowing me to do that, Chair. I would reiterate by saying all parties concerned have been satisfied with the process. We have no dissent within the ranks, and I would support that the motion is put and carried. Thank you.
I have an apology to Councillor Kirby-Green that Councillor Kirby-Green did say that she wished to raise something on the confidential item, and I did say that she could come back. Councillor Kirby-Green.
Yeah, I would like to, because I think, maybe I've got it wrong, but I think if we move it, we need to actually agree the severance package, which is in Appendix D, and I would like to discuss that, please.
In which case we need to go into confidential session for the reasons stated in the agenda. It's Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act, and the document refers to an individual, personal details and financial details. And for those reasons, I feel that we should go into confidential session. And I ask that the press and public be excluded for a period, and the YouTube feed will be paused, but we will be coming back later for the vote. Thank you, and welcome back to any members of the press or public who are now able to watch this public session of the Licensing and General Purposes Committee. Having dealt with the confidential matter, we're now in public session, and I think we're moving towards a vote. Councillor Field, is there anything that you wanted to add at the end?
No, thank you, Chair. I think it's all been said.
And we are voting, when we vote, we are voting on everything, including approval of Appendix D, is my understanding. Yes, everybody understands. Good. In that case, just to sum up, councillors, the proposal is to replace the 2 executive director posts with 1 chief executive. That is put forward as a cost saving and as a more efficient way of running the council. All matters have been dealt with. It is put forward that all matters have been dealt with openly, not agreed by all councillors, but that is how the matter is presented. The individuals concerned are content, and all proper advice, legal and otherwise, has been taken and followed. There have been some questions about what would be the knock-on effect of all this, to which the answer was given that it will be for the new chief executive to deal with all those matters of structure and grading and so on, which are the very things that a chief executive is expected to do. And those are the proposals. Councillors have raised the question of morale, which I would hope that all staff would accept from me, and I'm sure from other councillors, that we support them. We want to see an efficient and happy council, which is providing the best possible service to residents and to our electors and everybody else as well. That's what we want, and they play and have played an absolutely essential role in all that. And I thank the staff, and I know that these are difficult times for them. It is very much appreciated. And I'd also like to add to what has been said by some councillors here tonight, to thank the 2 present executive directors for long, good and loyal service to the council. This is no reflection on them. This is a structural matter, a restructuring, and sadly redundancy comes into it. Difficult times for all, but their attitude and bearing throughout all this has been very much appreciated. I would now like to move to a vote. We have a proposal. We have a proposal and a seconder, and I then ask Louise to move to the vote.
Okay,
Louise.
members, I will call your names out alphabetically. Please respond with for, against or abstain. Once your name has been called, switch on your microphone only to vote. If you do not answer after your name has been called twice or contact is lost, members will be recorded as abstaining. Councillor Bird.
Against.
Councillor Byrne.
For.
Councillor Coleman.
For.
Councillor Curtis.
Against.
Councillor and Mrs Earl Williams.
For.
Councillor Field.
For.
Councillor and Mrs Kirby Green.
Against.
Councillor Madeley.
For.
Councillor Mear.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
And Councillor Tempe.
For.
Did we miss Councillor Drayson?
Councillor Drayson is ex officio, so therefore
Oh, so
does
doesn't
not,
vote, of course. Of course. Thank you. Thank you. And the result is?
That's 8 for and 3 against. So that's carried.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, councillors. And that, I think, is the last item on the agenda. Senior staff restructuring. That at that point, I think we close the meeting. Does everyone agree that? We do. We do. Thank you, councillors, and thank you, officers, and thank you all, and thank you to any members of the public and press who are listening. And say good night. Good night.
Thank you.